Welcome back to Apex Sci-Fi. The planet Oris is a cage. The Hegemony fleet has surrounded it with steel and fire. They call it a blockade, but for the people on the surface, it is a death sentence. A plague is sweeping through the cities, and the only cure is sitting in the cargo hold of a single ship. The Hegemony does not want the cure to land. They want to break the planet's will. They have filled the space around Oris with thousands of seeker mines. These are not ordinary explosives. They are heat hunters. They are programmed to lock onto the infrared signature of a starship engine. If you turn on your thrusters, you die. If you use your shields, you die. Voss does not like cages. And he does not care about the Hegemony's rules. The Revenant star drifts at the edge of the system. Voss sits in his pilot chair. He reaches out and flips a row of heavy physical switches. One by one, the ship's systems go dark. The shields drop. The sensors go cold. Finally, he hits the big one. The main fusion reactor hums down into silence. The cockpit is plunged into darkness. The only light comes from the orange visor of Voss's helmet. He can feel the temperature dropping. The air in the cabin starts to turn into frost. He pulls his oxygen mask tighter. He is now flying a ghost ship. Voss uses a manual lever to release a burst of cold nitrogen gas from the nose thrusters. It is a tiny nudge, barely enough to move the needle. But in the vacuum of space, it is all he needs. The Revenant star begins to glide forward. No engine heat. No electronic noise. Just a piece of cold metal moving through the dark. He enters the minefield. On his visor, the mines appear as tiny red dots. They are everywhere. Some of them are only a few meters away. He can see the mechanical eyes of the mines spinning, looking for a spark, a flicker of heat, anything to lock onto. Voss holds his breath. He does not touch the controls. He lets the ship drift on its own inertia. Suddenly, a massive shape looms out of the darkness. It is a Hegemony destroyer, a mountain of black steel. Its searchlights are cutting through the minefield looking for smugglers. A blue beam of light passes over the canopy of the Revenant star. Voss sits perfectly still. If the destroyer's crew looks out the window, they might see him. But to their scanners, he is just a piece of space junk. A frozen rock. The ship drifts past the destroyer's massive engines. The heat from the enemy ship is so intense that Voss can feel it through his hull. His proximity alarms flicker once, a tiny warning, but he shuts them off manually. He cannot afford a single beep. He is halfway through the field when a mine begins to move. It is not an attack, but the mine's magnetic sensors have detected the iron in the Revenant star's hull. The red orb starts to drift toward him, pulled by a natural attraction. Voss does not panic. He does not turn on the engines. He reaches for a manual pressurized can of coolant. He opens a small vent on the side of the cockpit and sprays a cloud of freezing liquid into space. The blast of cold gas pushes the mine away, just enough to let the ship slide past. The planet Oris is getting closer. He can see the clouds, the orange glow of the cities, and the black line of the atmosphere. But he is still moving too slow. If he hits the atmosphere at this speed, he will burn up like a falling star. He needs power. He waits until he is in the blind spot of the last patrol ship. Now Voss says. He slams the reactor switches back to the on position. The Revenant star roars back to life. The lights flash. The engines kick with a violent burst of blue fire. The mines behind him instantly wake up. Thousands of red eyes lock onto his heat trail. They launch like a swarm of angry hornets. Voss doesn't look back. He hammers the throttle. The Revenant star screams as it dives into the upper atmosphere. The hull begins to glow red from the friction. The mines are closing in, their sensors screaming as they chase the hottest thing in the sky. Voss aims for the thickest part of the clouds. At the last second, he deploys a cloud of high heat flares. The mines, confused by the sudden burst of decoys, dive into the flares and explode in a massive chain reaction of fire and smoke. The Revenant star punches through the clouds and levels out over the dark ocean. He is beneath the radar now. He flies low, the wings of his ship carving a trail through the water, until he reaches the hidden landing pad of the Colonial Hospital. He lands hard. The cargo ramp drops before the engines even stop spinning. Doctors rush out to grab the crates of vaccines. Voss does not get out of the ship. He does not want a medal. He watches the orange data on his visor. The Hegemony will be here in 10 minutes. He waits for the last crate to clear the ramp. He pulls the yoke back and blasts off into the storm, disappearing into the clouds before the first Hegemony interceptor can even find his trail. In the streets of Oris, they will tell the story of the ship that came from the stars without a sound. They will call it a miracle. Voss knows better. It wasn't a miracle. It was just a ghost run. And the ghost is already looking for the next shadow. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. If you can't be fast, be invisible. If you enjoyed this silent mission, hit that like button. Comment below, would you trust your life to a ship with no engines? Subscribe for the next delivery, the Leviathan's Wake. The Revenant star is back in the black. The air is cold,